Hello, my name is Scott Davis. Welcome to New World Birth. This is the weekly neutrino forecast for January 10th to January 16th of 2016. And on January 10th, we've got the sun. You can see it denoted here by this black circle with a dot in it. It's in Capricorn. It's also in the 54th hexagram. And on the outside of the wheel, we have the chop mark for the 54, numbered from bottom to top. The 54 goes yang, yang, yin, yang, yin, yin. And then the 54th hexagram is mapped to an opening in an energy channel called a gate. And right here, this is the 54th gate of ambition, the Marian maiden, interaction in its mundane social context, but also one's mystical and cosmic relationships. Located in the root center, in a tribal energy path in the ego circuit called the channel of transformation, a design of being driven that connects to the 32nd gate of continuity, duration. The only thing that endures is change. And I found human design to be amazingly accurate in describing the person that I use it as my primary tool when I provide readings. And we have the following activated gates on January 10th. We've got the sun in the 54th gate with the earth in the 53rd gate. The north node is in the 6th gate with the south node in the 36th gate. Mercury is retrograde in the 60th gate. Venus is in the 5th gate. Mars is in the 28th gate. Jupiter is retrograde in the 6th gate along with the north node. Saturn is also in the 5th gate along with Venus. Uranus is in the 51st gate. Neptune is in the 37th gate. And Pluto is also in the 54th gate with the sun. So obviously not every gate activation forms a channel, but this information can be very helpful if you know your own human design chart, because some of these transits will form channels with potentials in your personal body graph. And then the neutrino forecast is really just a weather report. And no matter what the weather, your individual strategy and authority is the correct choice to have an authentic experience regardless of the program. As Ra Uru said, whatever the weather is going to be, you have your neutrino umbrella. As long as you're experimenting with your strategy and authority, the weather is for your pleasure. And we begin the week with no channel definitions due to the transit field. We're going to be looking at the sun's Ravi Ching line values daily, because 70% of the neutrinos we receive come from the sun. And as Ross said in Living with the Program, the lines of the day, when he was talking about these daily shifts of line values, he said we can always take advantage of the themes of the day. Obviously, if your strategy and authority does not lead you in that direction, you can also notice how the program is affecting others in your environment. So let's get started. January 10th. Begins with the sun in the 5th line of the 54th hexagram and gate. And the sun is exalted in the 54-5. And it's described as magnanimity, exalted the natural authority and actualizing spirit that in a position of power can have genuine and fruitful relationships with the less advantaged, as long as they are in service and make no demands. The energy for actualization that, despite its power, fuels fruitful relationships with others, no polarity. 5th line days, as I said before, this is the line of the heretic, and really this is about projection and being projected on, along with the other themes of suspicion, paranoia, seduction, things of that nature. Later on the 10th, the sun then moves into the 6th line, leaving the heretical 5th line, moving into the role model 6th line on the roof of the hexagram, again, of the 54. And this shift happens at 10:25 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. The sun in the 6th line of the 54th hexagram is selectivity, exalted, the ingrained responsibility in terms of maintaining security and personal identity that will naturally restrict its relationships to ones that are mutually beneficial. The energy to restrict relationships that hinder ambition, detriment, a generally benefic and expansive nature that assumes that it can instill what is otherwise missing in its partners, a waste of energy. The waste of energy in maintaining relationships which hinder ambition. And as I've said before, on the sixth line, the role model line, we're on the roof of the hexagram. When you're on the roof of a building, you don't tend to be looking at the building as much as what's going on around the building, what's down the road, what's in the neighborhood, what's on the horizon, things of that nature. And Ra talked about you on sixth line days not to get stuck with your head in the clouds, because you'll end up with something banging into your shins or your kneecaps. It's the lack of focus on what's going around us, because folks are looking beyond their immediate environment. And like third line days, bringing certain dangers like a car coming or a bill coming in that are not seen. And then on the 11th, the sun then moves from the 54, leaving Pluto behind, and it moves up into the 61. And the Earth moves out of the 53, and it moves to the 60. So we've got the sun up here in the 61, the Earth in the 62. And so we continue to move forward towards the Rave New Year here. We start with the Earth. It's in the 62nd hexagram. This is the gate of details. Preponderance is a small. Caution, patience, and detail produce excellence out of limitation. And this shift happens at 8:29 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, and the sun in the 61st gate of mystery, inner truth, the awareness of universal underlying principles. And the sun in the first line of the 61 is occult knowledge. Exalted, a natural psychic awareness that empowers principles of universalization. The pressure to know the mysteries through esoterics. Detrimented, where a reliance on secret knowledge increasingly demands ascetic withdrawal, and leads eventually to obscurity, where the pressure to know the mysteries can be so strong that one can be eventually incapable of handling exoteric realities. And as we continue to move towards the Rave New Year, with the sun in the 61st gate of inner truth and the Earth in the 62nd gate of details, the 61 is about thinking and preparing to let go and allowing the process of the year to filter through you. As we've looked at the questions of the previous hexagrams, looking back at our purpose, has our purpose and spirit been fulfilled? Looking back at who's been there for you and who has not, to lay the groundwork for the new beginning. And so at this point, in the 61, we're looking within ourselves for inspiration based on facts, based on what is possible, based on our authority and the power to realize our potential. And the sun in the first, second, and third lines make up the lower trigram. So when we've got the sun in the first, second, third lines, these are days when people are looking more inward. They're more absorbed in their own process. With the theme of the first line, the investigator, is that there's an anxiety or a fear that needs to be investigated. So it's a day to study, not to act. It's a day to look into things, not to jump. It's a good day to deal with things you don't understand, can't make sense of, or don't know. On the 12th, the sun then moves up into the second line of the 61, and this shift happens at 6:34 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. The sun in the 61 too is described as natural brilliance, exalted, a nourishing influence, free of guile and powerfully attractive. The gift for inspiration that is both attractive and beneficial to others. Detrimented, that in early recognition of its influence becomes so ego-obsessed with maximizing its effect, a delusion that any inspiration deserves recognition. And second line days, again, lower trigram. So, and the second line, people are waiting. They're waiting for something, waiting to be called, particularly called for their natural talents. More inward in its perspective. In second line, not a great day to have a party or a big social event because folks really wouldn't want to go out as much under that influence of the hermit line. And then also on the 12th, we have retrograde Mercury, and it moves out of the 60 and it backs into the 61, joining the sun. Mercury in mythology is the messenger of the gods. This is about communication and expansion of human consciousness through communication, not just as words, but also through music, as Ross said. And what do you need to communicate in life? Well, we communicate the message of our design Mercury through the medium of our personality Mercury. And what might be communicated when Mercury is in the 61st hexagram? The pressure to solve an individual mystery. This is the gate of mystery, inner truth, the awareness of universal underlying principles. And it's retrograde, so it backs into the 6th line of the 61. So Mercury is in the line of appeal, exalted, the profound attunement to the collectivity that can lure the public to the truth, inspiration that can bring clarity to the collective, detrimented the reliance on shop-worn cliches and slogans that may be new in their level of energy, but inevitably fall on deaf ears. The delusion that inspiration can bring clarity to the collective. On the 13th, the sun then moves up into the 3rd line. So leaving the hermit line, moving into the martyr line, again, 61st hexagram. And this shift happening at 4:38 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. The sun in the 3rd line of the 61 is interdependence. It's exceedingly difficult for truth to stand alone. Exalted, the ability to establish relationships for the actualization of truths, and through their nurturing and protective power, ensure a stable environment in which they can continue to grow. The pressure to know, enhance through collaboration. Detriment with the abundance of energy and in possession of the truth, the tendency to leave others behind or be crushed by their resistance, impatience with others, and the forsaking of relationships. And 3rd line days, martyr line days, things bump into us under this energy. We're talking about trial and error process, bonds made and broken, a system of discovery with that 3rd line. And, so again, being careful on the roads, be careful swinging doors, things in your environment that may move suddenly and unexpectedly. So this is a day where we might have bonds made and broken, or we might feel like we're going through a trial and error process. It's a good material day. It's a good day to do business and work on the material plane, but you also have to be careful because things can go wrong. But those things that go wrong do bring the potential to lead to some form of discovery. Also on the 13th, we've got Venus leaving Saturn in the 5th gate and moving to the 26th gate here over at the ego center. And in human design, Venus can be very powerful, deeply misunderstood, according to Ra. It brings morality or values, natural law, in which we deal with the other and the consequences of the world around us, and what disturbs you on a moral level. Your design and personality Venuses tell us about the moral dilemma that you're going to work with in your life, and then if you don't act with moral clarity, Venus can be unkind in its retribution. Venus is in the 26th gate. Hopefully, we can get it in the 26th gate. There. we'll go with that for now. So Venus in the 26th gate. This is the gate of the egoist, the taming power of the great, the maximization of power of memory applied to nurturing of continuity. Venus in the first line of the 26 is a bird in hand, exalted, the ability to enjoy the dreams engendered by accomplishments in order to avoid the delusion of unlikely potential. The ego, which transcends limitations through dreaming, detrimented accomplishment as a license for foolhardy risk-taking, the refusal of the ego to be satisfied. And then on the 14th, we have the sun moving into the 4th line. So, opportunist line of the 61st hexagram at 2:34 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, where the sun is in the 4th line of the 61. It's described as research, exalted the capacity of concentration to explore the depths of inner truth and maximize its application to fundamental principles. The pressure to know the fundamental principles detrimented where the tendency to expansion and integration leads to involving others in the research and may end in diversity of confusing applications. The illusion that collaboration will enhance inspiration. And 4th line days, we're moved out of the lower trigram into the upper trigram, moving into the line of the opportunist. Which means that we're moving from an inward perspective to more looking outward, moving from a personal perspective to more transpersonal, with those themes of friendship, companionship, networking. 4th line days are great days for social interaction. And then on the 15th, the sun then moves into the 5th line, the heretical line of the 61, at 12:48 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. So this is just 48 minutes after midnight Eastern Standard Time. So for folks east of the United States, this is going to occur on the 14th, at the end of the day on the 14th. But here on the East Coast, where I live, this is happening 48 minutes after midnight on the 15th. The sun in the heretical 5th line of the 61 is described as influence, exalted, the enlightened father figure whose recognized wisdom and power and powerful assertion can mold a generation by its influence. The pressure to know that may result in influence and wisdom, detrimented a tendency in power to want to enforce compliance and ensure lasting influence. The pressure in knowing to resent challenges and demand acceptance. And 5th line days, we're talking about projection. As I've said before, the projection goes positive, then negative, positive. They could do it. They're the perfect person for it. That's the person that we should get. And then if the person doesn't do it, can't do it, doesn't want to do it, whatever reason they're not meeting that expectation, that's when the projection turns negative. That's when the person gets punished. That's when the heretic gets tied to the stake. So, as I've said before, it's a day of suspicion, but also universalization, where something can leak out and spread like a virus, whether it's a YouTube video or a Facebook post or just about anything. There's a great deal of suspicion and paranoia associated with the 5th line day, which can impact the nature of relationships. As I said before, if they're projecting on you and you're not meeting their expectation and their projection turns negative, then it's not paranoia. They are out to get you. And of course, seduction also being another theme of the 5th line day. And then later on the 15th, the sun then moves into the 6th line of the 61. This happens at 10:53 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So in an hour and 7 minutes before midnight on the 15th Eastern Standard Time, the sun in this 61.6 is appeal, exalted, the profound attunement to the collectivity that will lure the public to the truth, inspiration that can bring a clarity to the collective, detriment the reliance on shop-worn cliches and slogans that may be new in their level of energy, but inevitably fall on deaf ears. The delusion that inspiration can bring clarity to the collective. And, as we've talked about before, sixth line days are, looking beyond, looking at what's coming next, what's down the road, what's in the neighborhood, what's happening, what's the next hexagram coming up, things of that nature. So there is definitely a day where people maybe have a lack of focus on what's happening in their immediate environment as their minds are moving towards what might happen next, what's down the road. And on the 16th, we have the sun leaving the 61 and moving into the 60, and Mercury also leaves the 61. Of course, it's retrograde, so it's going to go the opposite direction. So Mercury moves from the 61 and backs into the 54, where it's going to join Pluto. And we also have the Earth moving out of the 62. It moves into the 56. So let's just talk about this. We've got the Earth in the 56 hexagram. This is the gate of stimulation, the wanderer, stability through movement, the preparation of continuity through the linking of short-term activity. This shift happens at 8:59 p.m. Eastern Standard Time with the sun in the 60th gate of acceptance, limitation. The acceptance of limitation is the first step in transcendence. The sun in the first line of the 60. This is acceptance, exalted, the ability to maintain inner harmony when confronted by external limitations, harmonic energy that can deal with external limitations, detriment, the drive for diversity that when limited can become restless and agitated, restless energy when confronted with external limitations. And as we continue to progress towards the rave new year, when the sun moves into the 41st gate down here to begin the new year. When we've got the sun in the 60th gate of limitations. This is a time of letting go of the seduction of the mind, letting go of insecurities driving us to believe that we need to make something happen. This is a real change for folks who maybe set their New Year's resolutions on the 31st. They're now hitting limitation and feeling like they're failing because this is really closing the book on the past to get ready to step forward into the new cycle. So this is really about letting go of everything, not just the things that didn't work. This is about getting clean with the past, ready to enter into a new experiential cycle when the sun enters into the 41st gate. This is about transcending limitations through acceptance. Ross said, the moment that you can accept limitation, it no longer exists. This is all about the mind and the way the mind distorts things and the way that it distorts things to keep you so uncomfortable in life. So this is about letting go of not self, letting go of the constant bombardment of dilemmas that our minds present to us that distract us from our authentic promise and purpose, to trust ourselves through our strategy and authority, to give up the game of trying to allow our minds to control our destiny as we prepare to step into this new cycle. And again, we've got the sun in the first line, first, second, third lines, again, lower trigram, more absorbed in its own process, and the investigative line being about research and looking into things and studying, those types of themes. And as I said before, we also have retrograde Mercury, and it left the 61 and backed into the 54th hexagram. Again, we talked about Mercury before being about communication and expanding human consciousness through communication. So what might be communicated when we've got Mercury in the 54? Well, this could bring the pressure to move up the ladder to gain resources for the tribe. This is the gate of ambition, the Marian maiden, interaction in its mundane social context, but also one's mystical and cosmic relationships. And it retrogrades back into the 6th line, the role model line of the 54, which is selectivity, exalted, the ingrained responsibility in terms of maintaining security and personal identity that will naturally restrict its relationships to the ones that are mutually beneficial. The energy to restrict relationships that hinder ambition. Detrimented, the generally benefic and expansive nature that assumes that it can instill what is otherwise missing in its partners. A waste of energy in maintaining relationships which hinder ambition. So anyway, no matter what the energies that are conditioning you during the week, just remember this experience is about being a passenger riding in a vehicle that's being driven by the magnetic monopole. Enjoy the scenery. Let the vehicle take you where you need to go through using your strategy and authority. Every day we have is a blessing, no matter what the dramas that beckon to distract us. We're all here just giving the performance of a lifetime on the world stage. Just, take some time to observe your play. Take some time to watch your movie as well as acting your part. Remember, you're a spiritual being that's having a human experience. I want to thank you for checking out New World Birth. The next segment of the weekly neutrino forecast will be for January 17th. Should be available on the 16th, when we'll continue to look at the influence of the heavenly bodies as they transit the sky and the hexagrams of the I Ching. And you can check us out on Facebook, Blogger, and YouTube. And I encourage you to share this information as videos or as text as widely as you choose. And I invite you to contact me at newworldbirth@yahoo.com if you got any questions or you wish to schedule a reading. And if you've been thinking about getting a reading, please contact me. I would love to provide you a reading during these uncertain times. You'll need to be able to either call me in Maine in the USA, or we can connect with Skype to receive your reading. We're also accepting donations to keep these reports freely available. And again, contact me at newworldbirth@yahoo.com. And I'll let you know how to make a donation or get a reading. And just to be aware, I have not raised my rates on readings. They've been the same for 3 years now. So I am looking at bumping them up a little bit, just cost of living. But if you want to get the current rates before they go up, please contact me sooner rather than later. As always, I'm blessed that you've taken the time to connect with my passion for these ancient mysteries and their application to our journey during this incarnation. The light in me honors the light in you. Namaste, in Lakesh, and as Ra would say, love yourself. Anyway, look forward to connecting with you in a reading, or if you've got a question, through email, or in the next video where we're going to celebrate the Rave New Year. All right, all my best.